When you enjoy what you do, you don't really think of it as work. A buddy of mine calls me, says, hey, I've got 6 acres near your house. And so the greed gets to you and the ability to say, hey, I've been successful at everything I've done in my life. This can't be that difficult. One of the greatest skills I have being from banking is I look at everything in a risk and financialized perspective.
What if I told you that you can build a $20 million real estate development business while keeping your W-2 job, and that the timeline to get projects approved might actually be your biggest competitive advantage? Today's guest is Gaurang Gala, a man who's rewriting the rules to how you can build wealth in real estate. He's raised over $20 million across 7 projects. He's developed over $92 million in assets. And here's the kicker. He still had a full-time job as a banker up until recently. But this isn't a story about hustle culture or grinding 18-hour days forever. It's a story about strategic patience, relationships, and understanding that in land development, the real money isn't made when you build the building. It's made when you acquire the dirt, entitle it, and flip it to someone else who can. Gaurang took a deal that was stuck in zoning hell for 18 months, went door to door in 90-degree heat in a suit to get neighbor signatures, turned a unanimous rejection into a unanimous approval, and flipped the land for double what he paid in 2 years without ever putting a shovel in the ground. He bought dirt for $4.6 million, held it under contract for 2 years, and is selling it this month to a multifamily developer for $8.5 million. That's a $3.5 million profit on paper lots. No vertical construction, just zoning, entitlement, and relationships. Here's what makes Gaurang different. He's not chasing single-family flips or small deals. He's building 1,600 unit mixed-use developments, luxury condo buildings named after Benjamin Franklin's descendants, and a $20 million land fund targeting 2,000 homes in the next 5 years. He's doing it in what he calls the new Austin, Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, where Apple is building their East Coast campus. Google's cloud engineering hub is exploding, and the market is growing faster than almost anywhere in the country. If you've ever wondered how to transition from a W-2 job into real estate without quitting your job, how to raise millions from your community without being a full-time syndicator, or how to make 7 figures on land deals without ever swinging a hammer, this conversation is your roadmap. Gaurang's not here to sell you a course. He's here to show you patience, relationships, and understanding the math can turn dirt into generational wealth. Let's get into it. All right, Gaurang, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, Curt, for having me on the show. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that we had our quarterly mastermind that we're in together in my town, 5 minutes from the studio, so it's made it pretty easy.
Yes, shout out to Kent and the boardroom. It's great meeting you there and some amazing folks in real estate in our mastermind.
Yeah, it's so great getting to know you. So you've raised over $20 million. You have 7 real estate projects in the pipeline. You recently quit your full-time W-2 job in banking. Pretty exciting. Most people think it's kind of one or the other, but you did both for a little while, for many years. Walk me through how you structure your time and how you handled it when you had both positions, a real estate development company and you were in full-time banking. How did you structure your time?
So, great question. I think the biggest thing I learned doing that, and I also have a private executive coach, I would tell people, just like you've had a coach for physical activities all throughout your life, having a coach in business is really important. He taught me the concept of time blocking, where you turn your phone off for 45 minutes and you do what's called deep work. So after being in banking for so long, looking at the same kind of deals, underwriting deals, and I was work from home, so I could do all of the work that a normal person would do in 8 hours in 2 to 3 hours a day. And so that's what I did with time blocking. From 9 to 12, I would only do SBA commercial banking and focus on my loans and take 45 minutes on, 15 minutes off, 45 minutes on, 15 minutes off. And that way you could have meetings and all of that. All we had at the bank was a weekly pipeline call. So I only had to check in once a week. And when you're in sales, as many people that are in sales know, as long as you're producing and you're hitting your metrics, your manager should not care. And so I was very lucky to have a manager who was a really good friend and a mentor to me. And he knew I had a business on the side. And he was like, look, as long as you produce, I don't care.
So time blocking, I know Rob Dyrdek is coming out with an app, if you've seen that. It's a AI for time blocking. And
No way.
Rob Dyrdek, he's on a couple MTV shows. He's the former skateboarder. He is actually a big real estate investor in commercial real estate. He owned all those warehouses that they filmed those shows in. So he has something coming out that I'm pretty interested in looking into. So you were working in banking full-time, working on the side. You're probably putting in, I read somewhere, 10 to 12 hours a day total. How many hours are you working now per day now that you've left your banking job?
I'm probably still working the same 8, 10, 12 hours a day, depending on the day. It's just because I really enjoy what I do. When you enjoy what you do, you don't really think of it as work. And I've had such a great time doing development. I kind of fell into it. We had $1 million from an asset we had sold that we needed a 1031. And I was going to take the money, buy an existing retail strip center, industrial building, or a multifamily pad. Like a 7.5, 8 cap, little bit of vacancy, renovate it, do a 5-year hold, typical deal. A buddy of mine calls me, says, hey, I've got 6 acres near your house that I think you can put 30 townhomes on. And so what do? I run back to the spreadsheet, run all my numbers, and I say, hey, I can make 3 times more money doing this. And so the greed gets to you and the ability to say, hey, I've been successful at everything I've done in my life. This can't be that difficult. 4 years later, we finally broke ground on that project.
So not that difficult was something you learned real quick on that project. So what was the reason for the long delay for breaking ground? What were some of the struggles?
It was during COVID. Just the process of getting rezoning was extremely difficult. Everything was run through Zoom. None of the employees at the municipality were working there, so you couldn't catch them. You only had the ability to talk to them via email. And so just getting clarifications from them, it was extremely difficult. Then the consultant we had hired to help through the rezoning never did her job. So the day before my final board hearing at the rezoning with the city council, I get a call from the planning director saying, hey, you need to table your rezoning hearing because you don't have the votes. So I'm like, okay, table it. And I call my consultant. She doesn't answer her phone. And so I'm really frustrated. And then I figure out that I need to go call each one of the council members myself and figure out why are they a no for these townhomes. And what I find out is that they say that the neighbors complain. It's the NIMBYism, right? It's right next to a 55 and up community, and all the seniors there complained is what the council members were saying. Well, lo and behold, it's only like 4 of the neighbors. The other 80 neighbors that live in that neighborhood don't care. And we found this out when we asked the mayor. The mayor said, well, if you're saying this, go get signatures on a petition that they agree with your rezoning. And I did that. I went out in the heat in May and June, door to door of every home in the neighborhood, got them to sign the petition, and I went from 0 votes to a unanimous approval.
Wow. There's your prime example of everything you've done, you've succeeded at, and you succeeded again at that one. So that was, when did you break ground on that project?
We broke ground March of this year.
Okay. So 4 years later.
Yes.
Now, did any of those struggles turn you off about real estate and development, or did that just fuel the fire to get better at it?
I think exactly what you said. It fueled the fire for me to get better, kind of figure it out. I was like, well, I've made so many mistakes on this project. I've learned every step of the way. And I've also learned how to communicate with the council members, what they're looking for, and being more attuned to the community, understanding what the exact zoning is, understanding their future land use plan. That's really important. A lot of municipalities have a future land use plan for growth. You want to see what they want. So you can't put an industrial building where they may want a neighborhood. You can't put a neighborhood where they have zoned it off for industrial and those kinds of things. So it kind of tells you what you can do there. It's a roadmap.
Your W-2 job was as a commercial lender for 15 years. You spent all day looking at tax returns and P&Ls and underwriting deals. How's that skill set been a secret weapon that allowed you to raise $20 million and underwrite projects that pencil for institutional investors?
So I think that's one of the greatest skills I have being from banking is I look at everything in a risk and financialized perspective, right? How can I minimize risk for our investors and for the bank? Because you got to realize we're only putting in 20, maybe 30% equity in these deals. The bank is putting in 70% to 80% debt on a lot of these projects. And so how was I, as someone who has never built a single family home, able to go out and get a $6 million A&D loan and a $12 million builder's line of credit, right? For 49 luxury townhomes for a $30 million project. It's because I spoke the language of the banker and the underwriter. And a lot of developers don't do that. So first thing, you have to have all your financials and your package really neat and tight. Your underwriting needs to be neat and tight. And then you need to stress all of your scenarios because that's what the underwriter will do is stress the scenarios. And then you show them, hey, these are all of the risks because there's always risk implied. And then you want to show them, here are the steps I'm taking now to mitigate the risk. So you're doing the homework for the underwriter. When you do all of that for them, they love you and you have a significantly higher chance of approval.
And it seems like they would probably respect you more, especially when it goes to the bank board who votes on the loans.
Correct.
And I think it's your superpower, but it's probably one of the best superpowers of any developer, period. They need to have not just a CFO on their team, but someone that actually understands banking.
Right. The good thing is, I know based on the bank, if they have a loan committee, do they have a structure where they only have one or two signers? Who needs to sign? And you want to get in front of those people, if at all possible, as the borrower, right? Where you're actually pitching them. And you want to tell them, hey, this does have risk. This is how we're mitigating the risk. Because you don't want to tell them everything is peaches. Because nothing ever works that way. And that's how they look at it. And that's where we were able to find the right lenders. And even if you have a great deal, sometimes the lenders, their credit bucket is too full. And they're like, we need a couple of other loans to roll over and then we'll bring you on. So you should never take a no from a bank as a sign of they don't ever want to work with you. They just don't want to work with you right now. And if you're like me and you've dated women and gotten 100 no's, it's the exact same way.
Just keep going, keep moving
keep going,
forward.
keep trying.
And I like it. I think banking also helps with relationships, like kind of what you just spoke. Hey, the bank might not have enough deposits or a credit balance to be able to do your loan for that one project. But come back 6 months later with a new project, they may go, hey, we actually really liked you, even though we couldn't do that last loan. So it's kind of a no-quit game, right? Just develop relationships.
Exactly.
And improve understanding banking, or have someone on your team. Like I use Mike Thorpe from our boardroom.
Yeah.
He has done 7,500 transactions. I did not know that until today.
That's amazing.
It's insane. But he coached us and he spoke the banking language where 2 banks told us no, and then he got us on a 3rd bank. But it's because he kind of coaches, go, hey, but hold on. Let me change your underwriting. This is the bank language. That's your internal. But we need to submit this because this is what the bank's going to go off.
And 100%. That's why I have 15 different bank accounts at 15 different banks, right? Because you never know which bank is going to lend to you at what time. So you have to develop relationships everywhere. And it's the same way. One bank will lend to you on an industrial deal, another on a multifamily deal, another on a single family deal. And you can never have concentration.
Yeah.
So you don't want to just be at one bank that's got 30, 40, 50 million dollars of your debt, because when you go to them for a new one, they're going to be like, well, your limit is up on our concentration portfolio. So they have all of these rules, and understanding all of those rules will make it easier for you to understand why you should always diversify. And the other thing I'll say is we talk a lot about shop local. Go buy local beer. Go buy local coffee. You should also always bank local. Never bank at the big banks. I've never had an account at Bank of America, Wells Fargo, or Truist. I can say that, and all 3 of them are headquartered in North Carolina.
So you talk about that a lot. Let's break that down just a little bit, because I think a lot of people don't know, including myself. And Mike Thorpe is kind of coaching me a little bit on that. But for example, I probably have 6 bank accounts with Chase, JP Morgan Chase. It's a national bank. It's large. Mike is saying, hey, well, we should move some of your money, like your majority of your money, to have a banking relationship with a bank in San Diego.
100%.
Because I have a house here, if I bank here, my office is here now. Yeah. He goes, even if your deal's in Texas, because you're here and all your location, and if you bank here, that starts developing a relationship. And I just haven't done it yet. But for the listeners, what is your advice as far as how many different banks should they store money at? Because you're playing a game here, right? Where you're not just putting all your banks. So I have all my money at Chase because it's easy. I can move money from accounts and this and that. But to change a new strategy, if someone's looking to get more debt and they're in the real estate or the business game, how many different accounts should they move?
If you're a small business owner or a real estate developer, you should never have your money in a big bank, because they're not lending you any money. And community banks, small banks, credit unions have something called a loan-to-deposit ratio. As you have all of these new neobanks that have come out, crypto, all of these other asset forms where people are holding money, community banks and credit unions are having less and less in deposits. So if their loan-to-deposit ratio gets too high, they have to stop all lending. They can't go over like 110, 120%. That's kind of in the red. And so a lot of deals that wouldn't get done just because you have a deposit relationship with that bank.
Compared to someone that's trying to come from the outside, get a loan from that credit union, but they don't have deposits. I know they always, when you get a car loan, you get one of the other loans from a credit union, like I used to use, they'd always make you open a bank account and make a deposit. Yeah. And now I didn't do real estate loans. Actually, I did do a HELOC with one, but I never put a lot of money in there because it wasn't my prime bank. But you're saying if you put at least some of your money, like consistent deposits monthly, right? Running one bank business or business bank account through that bank, you're establishing a relationship, right? And now they're more likely to do a real estate loan with you.
Hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the podcast. If you're into real estate investing and want to consider partnering with Captain Capital, go to our website, captaincapital.com/invest. Fill out the simple form and let's book a call with the team. Now, back to the show.
Exactly. Like what I do now is I keep all my personal money at the small community banks and my local credit union. And I have a First Citizens bank account. First Citizens headquartered in Raleigh. It used to be a small bank. They're now a top 10 bank in the United States. They bought Silicon Valley Bank when it collapsed. So they're huge here in the West Coast. I moved. I only use them for Zelle and Venmo because my wife and my kids will need that. So I keep 10, 15 grand in that account all the time just in case they need it for money purposes because they have so many branches. So that's usually what you want to do. Keep what you normally spend in a month in that account, but keep all of your savings, your extra money in your local community banks. And then let's say you're a small business, you're running a pizza shop, a donut shop, a coffee shop, or you're a real estate investor and you're looking to do a flip. You now can go to that bank and say, hey, look, I've got $250,000 here. I need a $100,000 line of credit or secured with a deed of trust on this house while I renovate it, right? They are more adapt to work with you because you can always threaten and say, hey, if you don't help me, I'm pulling all my money out and closing my relationship. You don't ever want to threaten, but they know that they don't want to say no to a trusted customer.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, and like you said, you're really establishing a relationship, correct, not necessarily a threatened one.
Yeah.
But I think I need to do that and move some money. Mike Thorpe told me to do that a couple months ago. And then the bank that he liked, he said they kind of were changing some of he was going to go for a business line of credit for me, a big one that I could use to fund the land entitlement stuff, right?
Exactly.
Instead of borrowing investor money and giving them a return, just use the bank.
Yeah.
And so
debt is always better than equity.
100%. So I need to get a little bit smarter with it. I know I've talked about it, but I need to follow up because my money is all sitting in 6 accounts at JP Morgan, which is just not helping me, right?
Yeah, why would we give Jamie Dimon more money than he already has?
Yeah, and I'm not going to get a loan from them, right? I'm not going to do a home loan. I'm not going to do a car loan.
And that's the problem with the big banks. Once they get that big, they have so many regulations. They work in middle market. So if you're not worth between 50 and 100 million and up, they're not lending to you.
So you're currently under contract to sell a multifamily property, but
Yes.
really only the dirt with entitlement. And there's a $3.5 million profit on that. No shovel in the ground, just zoning and entitlements. Walk me through the deal. What did you buy it for? How long did you hold it? And what's the process to get it entitled?
So this is the coolest fact about this is I never bought the land. We have been under contract on this land since November of 2022. Right after Thanksgiving, we went under contract. So 3 years ago. I got the zoning approved. We went through the local municipality there and we got our zoning approved. It took about 18 months. And over the last 18 months, once we got the zoning approved, I took it to a couple of real estate brokers, Carl and Sarah at Foundry Commercial. They're the best in the land game in our area in the Research Triangle. They created a bid process for the land. We started at 6 million and we ended at 8.5 million. I actually had a higher offer at 9 million, but we chose the lower offer because of their execution in the market and certainty to close. So that again, price shouldn't be everything. Execution and certainty to close has a ton of value.
Yeah, that's good advice for any listener here. I've done this before on a smaller scale. Let's just say when I was younger, I would try and get the highest price to sell my car, right? And I would tell buyers, nope, that's not enough. And then all of a sudden you end up selling it for less.
Correct.
Because the market dipped and I went, wow, I wasn't really losing money. Cars are going down in value, but you could be the same for this, right? If you would have sold for 6 million, you wouldn't have made much money. Or you could sell for 9. Now, if that buyer at 9, because you're like, hey, extra 500 grand sounds great. If that buyer falls out, Now maybe the other buyers that bid already bought something else.
Correct.
And now you're holding dirt that you haven't closed on.
Yes.
And it's a loss. So I think there's a lesson in that for listeners. You don't always have to go for the top dollar. Go for the guaranteed win. And obviously this win's still a really good one for you.
We're really excited. This win is what helped me fully quit my W-2.
And there's a lot to be said about that, right?
Yes.
I mean, walking away from a job, even though you were very good at it, but now you don't have a boss, you don't have to check in,
No.
and you get to do what you want to do every day, talking to people about real estate, raising capital. And it sounds like you and I are similar in the fact that we kind of act as the quarterback of the business.
Correct.
Where we have to have a team. I got to have a developer. I got to have a CFO. I don't want to deal with wires and stuff. I want to deal with investors. I want to deal in looking at the deal once it's like, it's pretty good. So I send all my addresses and I have my director of development underwrite my deal. So I send everything over to the team and then I make the quarterback decision after talking to the banker and this and that. I like that part. I like making sure the deal goes. Right now we have a delay on permits and I'm the guy calling the builder, even though my director of development's checking in, but about once a month I'm like, hey man, CEO's got to have a word. What's going on over here? You know.
Exactly.
So I texted him today when we were at lunch. And I'm like, look, man, we need to close this thing. We're ready to pour concrete. He's like, I know, next any day now, you know. So it seems like you like to do the same. You like to help people place their money and earn them money through investing. So you have a better finance background, but it sounds like you're really stoked to leave that W-2 corporate job and just get out there. I see you on the road quite a bit raising money.
Yes. And that's what I tell people is that at the end of the day, we are fiduciaries to their money. I'm always the first money in, last money out. And that's the life of a developer, right? In that deal where I'm making $3.5 million, we've put in $250,000 to $300,000 every year for the last 3 years. So I have $1 million in it. A majority of it are earnest money deposits paid toward the purchase price. So I will get that money back. But still, that is the amount of money that you have to put into it. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is the amount of just time, money, and risk that we take as developers on the front end to be the last guys paid at the back end, right? And if you're a good developer, that's what you want to do. You want to take good calculated risks with good underwriting, but you want to make sure that your investors' money is the last money in when you're ready to close on the land to go vertical or however you've structured the deal. And they are the first money paid out, whether it's in pref equity or as LP returns.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how we structure our business. The flex space we're developing now, it'll be condo units that are sold. First money out pays off the lender so that we reduce our interest rate.
Yeah,
you know,
and the interest expense over that period of time.
Correct. And so that makes the deal sweeter.
Correct.
But it also reduces risk. So the investors were on board with that. Sometimes you'll see people go, okay, well, we'll split 70-30. Investors will get some cut, bank gets a little. I said, no, let's be ultra conservative. Then the next money comes out as investors. They get their return of capital.
Yeah.
And then the split comes in. 60-40 is what we're doing on this deal. That's when the developer is getting paid out. Finally at the end, right? So
Correct.
You have to really believe in yourself and your operation and the deal itself as well to be a developer.
100%. That's what I tell people. I'm a big fan of Elon and what he's done with rockets, going to the moon, wanting to go to Mars. I saw on my birthday just recently in July, I was down at Cape Canaveral. I saw a SpaceX launch and I said development is very similar to building rockets because we're creating something out of thin air. You think about it, if you're doing a large mixed-use development or a luxury condo building, you have to imagine that building and dream of it and then convince the whole government, in this case, the municipal government, in Elon's case, the federal government, to believe in you, put the deal together, bring all the smart people in the room. For him, it's rocket scientists, builders, and whatnot. For us, civil engineer, architect, general contractor. All of these people have to come together in all of these trades to put something like that together. Banks, capital raisers. And that's why I think what we are doing as developers, outside of what Elon's doing, building rockets and some of these builders of tech companies, is probably the hardest thing in the world.
There's so many moving pieces. There's so much risk. I don't know about you, but I personally guaranteed the last $5 million loan, the hotel, me and one other
we
guarantee.
PG everything.
Yeah. So when people say, hey, well, what do you have on the line? Well, I have several hundred thousands of dollars up to $1 million, in the project alongside the investors.
Correct.
I have all the effort in searching for the properties, making connections. And then on top of that, I'm the only one that PG'd this development on industrial.
Yeah,
so
I could lose my house.
I have the most to lose, where the investors are actually, as the LPs, are protected on the land. Yes, we owe the bank, but the land is still worth something with all the plans if it goes wrong.
Correct.
Right? And the lender, the way they do draws, they're going to be less liable, as we're already pre-selling our units right now. So they're loving that we're negotiating units as we speak, because
That's awesome.
if we have to foreclose, it will never happen because I will not let it happen. But if a developer forecloses, the bank still has some value in there, and that's why they do a draw process. You pour concrete, they'll cut a partial check. Then the buildings come, and then they'll put a partial check. So that land is worth more money, and why the banks take the risk, right?
Correct.
So I think the developer takes all the risk. Even though the bank is giving you 70% of money, and we're pretty much bringing 30% of equity, the bank's taking a risk, but really the developer's taking all of it. Because you're telling the bank, we're going to pay you back no matter what. So I love developing, but there's a lot of moving parts. And some of the people we know are developing just so many houses and apartment complexes and this. I don't know how they keep it all straight. Obviously, they have a big team.
Yeah.
But also for me, I'm like, I don't want that big a team because it's a ton of liability at the same time.
And that's where, with AI technology, having teams in other countries, like we're hiring a project manager in Colombia, our team that builds out all of our renderings and drawings is in India. I'm trying to outsource some of the architecture work to India as well. So it really becomes a global workforce. And so this is where we can provide that additional IRR to our LPs, because now our soft costs have come down 20%, 30%. So I can add another 1 or 2 percentage points on the return for our LP investors. And that's what you want to look at. How do I maximize return for my investors? Because at the end of the day, you are only as good of a general partner, principal, and developer as you are returning capital as quickly as possible to your investors.
Yeah, that's really the name of the game. Sure, we want to make money. This is a business, how we pay for office space and everything else. But really, I want all my investors happy with communication.
Correct.
And execution and a relationship, in my opinion. It's not just, hey, here,
100%.
take the money, here you go, here's it back, thanks a lot. No, actually put in a lot of effort. I personally write the investor updates every month. I send camera crews, video crews out. We do videos, photos. I personally love that, and I'm building a family more than just number 149 investor, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And so you said that 70% of the profit in real estate is made before the building goes vertical.
Yes.
It's in acquiring the dirt, zoning it, doing the infrastructure. That's the exact opposite of what most people think. Explain why land development is so lucrative and why most investors don't do it.
I would say most investors don't do it because they don't understand it. And I didn't understand it really until about 3-4 years ago. Because it is so difficult. And this, again, is from regulatory capture. This is why we have a housing problem in America. Anything the government touches really goes to crap. When you have a raw piece of land, it's really worth what a person is willing to pay for it and market value. Once that parcel is rezoned to, let's say, 20 lots or 30 lots, it's worth what a company can build a single family home or a townhome on, a percentage of that. So it usually margins on land from just raw land to rezoning double the value, or at least go up 50 to 75% at a minimum. Once you've spent all the money designing the roads, the retaining walls, the lots, and everything, you get another 50 to 100% bump. So that's where I'm buying something for 2 or 3 million. I can turn around and sell it for 6 or 7 million all day.
You're taking the risk, and this is a perfect leads into the next question. So you've held land for 2 years, you paid over $500,000 in interest carry, and you still make millions, right? Most people would have panicked. So how do you stay patient during those 18 to 24 months for approval timelines? What would you say to someone that's scared of uncertainty?
Well, one of the things we do is we make sure our contracts extend out until we have rezoning approval. So we will not close on a piece of dirt until we have rezoning approval. Once we have the rezoning approval, we can close on the dirt, and that's when we usually start marketing it with an end game in mind. And that is where what I've learned is, because of the financialization of home building, D.R. Horton, Lennar, Pulte, all have quarterly earnings calls. They do not want on their balance sheet $100 million, $200 million worth of land just sitting on the balance sheet. So what they do is they'll pay more for the lots so they don't have to worry about the risk premium. And all of these companies have moved this way as they become publicly traded, the same way the multifamily REITs are. And so what you're making in your profit is what's called the risk premium, because you went through the risk of putting that raw land under contract, taking it through rezoning, taking it through entitlements. Now you're giving that builder, publicly traded builder, or multifamily REIT a shovel-ready project. And that's what they want, because that's what they know. They know 2x4 in, single-family home or townhome out. And they're really good and efficient at building those homes.
So, and really, like you said, they're removing the risk because they have so much at stake.
Correct.
With voting power and everything else,
because
right?
Wall Street doesn't like risk.
Yeah.
And that's why you're making the risk premium as a private entity.
Love it. So your first $4.5 million raise came from your inner circle, South Asian community, friends, parents, friends.
Yes.
But you said the people who knew you best were least likely to invest because they remembered the 21-year-old version of you. How did you overcome that?
Well, I think what you realize is a lot of the people you knew when you were younger maybe, didn't make the most great decisions in life, going out partying, whatnot. They can't see the person you've become 20 years later. And so they are less likely to invest in you compared to someone who's seen your polished pitch, who's seen the deck, and who's actually an investor. A lot of these people may be your friends and family, but they've never invested in real estate. So they may not understand how it is. Whereas if you're targeting and speaking with actual real estate investors, they know the terms, they understand the projects, and they see the opportunity. And the other thing that we're blessed is that we're in the hottest market in the country right now, in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill market in North Carolina.
So you've raised over $20 million across multiple funds now. What changed between raise number 1 and raise number 3? And what did you learn about investor psychology and how you structure your pitch now versus when you started?
I like to talk to people and listen to them more than just talking myself. I think the one thing I've learned is to listen and kind of figure out what their goals are for the investment opportunity. And then I can cater my discussion and our project goals around that. And I would say the person with the most money is probably your easiest customer. The guy that's investing 50 grand who's going to call you every month is difficult, but the person who put in $1 million is going to call you once a year. Yeah. And so going after the seasoned real estate investors is great.
And do you think that's just because they're more experienced with it? So they've seen the decks, they've seen the legal paperwork, they know the risk. Where the newbie, we all started new, but the newbie with $50,000, that's all their money, that's their everything. And they don't have the experience, so they want to try and control it more. I find that they do take up more of your time, but in my philosophy, as long as they're on the same path, like I have the call, like, what are you looking to get out of it? It's not about money. So as long as the morals and what they're wanting and to kind of be a part of the family, and I kind of make that point, like, hey, you're going to get a monthly update that's really deep. If you have questions,
call me.
You can call me, but I have limited time to an extent, right? So I find like that if I update really well, and a lot of them follow me on social media and I post extra photos of developments, right? But then they also get the monthly newsletter that gives them a good update. And I mean good update by the negative and the positive what's going on. It's just straight up clarity.
100%.
Hey, we are delayed right now. Permits, it's frustrating for all of us. But here's the positives. We have multiple buyers and we haven't even laid concrete yet. We're like negotiating.
And you'll always be delayed.
That's
correct.
There's
always a delay in construction.
Yeah.
No matter what anyone tells you, if anyone tells you there's not going to be a delay, I mean, I would run away from that deal because there's always delays in construction.
So true. You're all in on the Research Triangle, which is Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. You call it the Bay Area of the East Coast.
Yes.
Apple's building their East Coast campus there. Google's Cloud Hub is there.
Yes.
And you say it's the number 2 fastest growing metro in the U.S.
Yes.
Why is everybody else sleeping on it?
I think they are now realizing how big it is. I call it the new Austin as well. Austin's growth from 2010 to COVID was massive, right? It's now tapered off. We have a similar growth pattern, I believe, starting now over the next decade. We're adding about 120 people a day. All my neighbors where I live are from California. It's funny, you can tell what company they work for based on what part of California they're from. So if they're from Northern California, they work in tech or SaaS. If they're from Southern California, they work in pharma or biotech.
That's funny.
So we have a massive biotech hub there and a massive pharma hub there as well. We have the highest concentration of PhDs, only second and third to both Silicon Valley and the Boston metro around Harvard.
You mentioned that there's a $5 to 6 million home shortage in the U.S.
Yes.
And you're focused on building for millennials, Gen Z, with smart home tech, EV charging, solar. These big builders aren't always doing this. Why not? And how does that create your competitive advantage?
So a lot of the cool homes that you see in most major metros are in like the downtown trendy parts of town. Our goal was to bring that trendy architecture design to the suburbs and do large scale developments with luxury townhome product. And the reason for that was millennials now, I'm an elder millennial, I'm 42. I think millennials go from about like 32 to 43, 44. They're having kids and they're worried about schools. And the best schools are in the suburbs. They need bigger places. But what happens when you go to most suburbs in these emerging cities everything was built over the last decade by these tract builders. And I'm just going to tell you, Pulte builds shit houses. I live in a Pulte home, and I've had a roof leak. I've had all kinds of problems in my home that we've had to repair. We've had to replace our flooring, all kinds of problems. And my house is 6 years old. I bought a brand new construction. So they are just out to make a profit. And that's where we want to bring in better architecture, better design, and a better quality product, right? Shop local, eat local, bank local, and buy a home from your local developer and builder. Don't buy one from a national company if you can avoid it.
I've heard similar things from people that have bought from national builders, and I think the difference is the local builder cares because they live in the community. They work in the community. Their employees live in the community.
And the money goes back into the community. If you buy a home from Lennar, all that money is going to their corporate headquarters in Miami, right? If you buy a home from any California-based home builder that's building on the East Coast, that money's coming here or to New York. And that's where buying local re-stimulates and reinvigorates your local economy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I love shopping local, like you said, supporting local, the smaller gyms, whatever it may be. And it's like, you're right. And even when I go on vacation in Hawaii or whatever, we don't go to chains.
Yeah.
Let's go to the local little spot, the people that cut fresh pineapple or whatever it is that you want. So I believe in that as well.
Exactly. Today, like we as millennials, we don't go to your chain restaurants. No one's going to a Applebee's or Chili's. We go to the local spots. If you're going to do that and you're going to buy from small businesses, you should also bank local and structure your whole life that way.
I agree. Let's talk about your first project. So your first project took 18 months to rezone. You hired a consultant who did nothing. And then the day before the vote, you found out you had zero council support. I know you preached on it earlier. You went door to door in the 90-degree heat to get those signatures. What did that teach you about doing the work yourself rather than delegating?
100%. If you want anything done right, sometimes you have to do it yourself, right? And if it's very important and it's a make or break thing, you have to go out and do the work.
So
to really learn any kind of craft, you have to go and do the work. Like I would tell people in any business, spend a couple hundred hours. I would say about 300 hours total in that business before you become really, really good at it. Those first 300 hours of work, whether it's in development, whether you're doing a startup, any kind of new business, those first 300 hours is crucial. You want to do everything.
Would you say, like hiring a consultant, would you tell people shadow them as much as you can and just get as much info? Because you still, like, if you don't know how to develop a rezone, it's hard to learn it by yourself. But in my opinion, I would say hire the consultant, but kind of be the clingy customer.
100%.
And just go, hey, what are you doing there? And then what's the next step? And then what's this? So I think people oftentimes, like you said, you hire a consultant and you expect them to do the work. It's not like you're hiring a maid to clean your house. That's not going to really change your life. But things like zoning and civil engineering and all this, I don't need to be the engineer, but I'm going to learn everything that they do so that I can kind of monitor them.
You want to learn at least on a high level what they're doing. Like if in a rezoning now we've moved to hiring attorneys, land use attorneys, right? But I tell the land use attorneys I want to be copied on every email. And I tell them if you're going to hold a meeting with a council member, I want to come to the meeting. That way I get face to face with that council member, and now I've built relationship and rapport. So they understand what we're doing for the community. I want the council members to know as well, hey, I'm Gaurang Gala. I'm the local developer. My kids go to school in this town. I go to the parks here. I really love this town. I also vote in this town for your seat. I am not D.R. Horton or Pulte or Lennar. I am not taking the money out. All the money made on this deal is going to stay in the town.
And I think when you hire a consultant to go to that meeting and you're not there, they're not saying any of
They're
that.
not
They're
saying
saying,
that.
hey, these are the plans. We're looking to build this. We want to rezone. And that's it, because that's their job.
Yeah.
You know, their job is just to rezone. But now when you go to those important meetings, I was doing this in Lake Havasu, Arizona, where I have a lake house.
Yeah.
And I went to the city meeting, right? And it was more like it wasn't a vote, but the engineer, the water engineer was
Like
there.
the pre-submission.
The pre-submission. But guess what? Now I didn't know what I was doing. I went with my engineer, my architect, and my broker, the whole team, but I got to learn from it. So, and I also got to put my face in it going, hey, I may not live here full time, but I'm here a lot. I have a house here. You know, I want to retire here.
Yeah.
And they liked seeing that. Even though I was at full time, I'm like a part-time resident now.
Exactly.
And it makes a difference.
They know that you have a vested interest in the community. You're not going to build a shit product, basically. That's the biggest concern of council members, is that you're going to build a shoddy product or they rezone it. You're just going to turn around and sell it to a national developer. Like, I was asked that multiple times. And I said, no, we're going to build this out. This was a project I wanted to do soup to nuts, right? To really understand it.
Now, you said that land development's the hardest thing you've ever done, harder than running a $20 million business with 100 employees. What makes it so hard? And what do you tell someone who's thinking about getting into land development for the first time?
I think it's because you can do everything right. But let's say you have one election during your rezoning process, and now the council changes and they're all anti-development. And that wasn't your fault. What happens is you can do everything right, and there are things out of your control, right? That could kill the deal. The economy could go to shit. And now everything is difficult. You're not able to sell it. You don't have all of that. And so that's why development's so hard. You're putting all of these pieces together, and then somebody could just come with a hammer and just break it, whether it's a recession like the '08 recession or a political climate change. And so some of that is out of your control. That's why we're very careful on the parcels of land that we select, and we don't close on any of the land until rezoning is approved.
And that reduces a lot of risk right there. Your own capital, your investor capital, and everything in between, right?
Yes.
Couple last minute questions for you before we wrap it up. What keeps you up at night?
A lot of things. I believe macroeconomically, America is losing its power as the sole superpower and sole hegemony in the world. And what I've kind of said is that America is basically becoming just like every other country in the world. Over the last 50 to 60 years, we had such a strong middle class because of outsourcing and the fact that all of these other countries have come up, from Germany, South Korea, Japan, all the G7, G20 countries, China today, India very soon, the Middle East. I think what's going to happen is the bifurcation of the U.S. economy, where the top 20% are doing really well. The next 20% are the middle class, and the bottom 60% are really the working poor in this country. And that is going to be a cause for a lot of political upheaval, social upheaval, economic upheaval in this country. So that's what keeps me up at night. I know that's a crazy question, like macroeconomically, right?
But, you know, like you said, if it keeps you up at night, there's a lot of trickle-down effect to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with a lot of that. And I think it's hard because I think GDP has to grow to get out of our current debt. We have to grow our way out, from numerous experts that say that, right? And I kind of agree with it. And people are spending less money right now than they ever have, because I think they fear we're on the teeter-totter of a recession.
Correct.
And I believe, Trump believes as well, right, that if interest rates come down, it'll stimulate the economy. But there's also other economists that say that's actually kind of a bad thing. We do want to stimulate the economy, but I'm curious to see where it goes next year. I believe rates will come down, especially with him. He says he's already picked, the next person to replace Jerome Powell. So I'm interested. I don't think he'll pick anybody that won't listen to listen to him when he speaks in their ear.
Exactly.
And he's a real estate guy, just like everybody should know that. So I believe rates are going to come down a whole bunch in the next 18 months.
And they need to, right? We have $38 trillion in debt. We need to be able to refinance our debt. It's the similar problem in Europe and Japan, and they artificially keep interest rates low. We should have never gone up on the interest rates so high as we did. Inflation, in my opinion, was transitory, and it was because we pumped $7 trillion into the economy, right, during COVID. And that's both presidents' fault. President Biden put in $3.5 trillion. President Trump put in $3.5 trillion. They put in both half for the $7 trillion. So both of them are at fault, and that's what's created the debt. But to make the interest payments on the debt, we need the Fed funds rate around 1%.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And I think a couple economists say that if we lower the rates, that is correct. We will handle some of the debt, but it could cause inflation to spike back up and increase values of cars and homes and everything else and the cost of goods. So I'm not sure what I believe all the way, you know what I mean? But I've heard both sides. And I do believe rates got to come down, but I think we deal with the value of goods that if they go up because of that.
I think they could go up, but it's all on supply and demand, right? Even if rates come down, you're not going to see a lot of money unlocked, right? You have to increase lending, quantitative easing, which was done right after 2008 under Obama 1, Obama 2, and Trump 1. So we've had quantitative easing for the last 12 years until COVID, from 2008 to 2020. And that's what they'll probably get back to, and modern monetary policy allows that. Getting out of kind of the macro, I would say the other thing that keeps me up at night is what you see in technology, right? With AI, robotics. Everyone's seen Terminator. We grew up on that as kids, and so that's scary. I personally am a techno optimist. Me and Curt both listen to the All In podcast. That's one of my favorite podcasts. I've met Chamath, David Sachs, all of those guys in person. Great people. I am a huge techno optimist. That's why I love California, because California, I think, is on the cutting edge of everything, right? Whether you're in SF, the Bay Area, or down here in San Diego with biotech and pharmaceuticals. I believe it will be a good for humanity. It's going to help us become what I would call a multiplanetary species.
Interesting.
I think we'll be able in 200 to 400 years, based on the expansion curve of AI, quantum computing, and robotics, we should be able to create almost like what we saw as kids and today in Star Trek within the next 400 to 500 years.
We won't be around to see it, but I
Right.
agree. Technology, if you look back at even the dot-com boom,
Yeah.
and then now with AI is advancing just insanely every week, right?
I mean, think of what this iPhone can do today. This is a 15-year-old, less than 15-year-old product.
Yeah.
When we were kids growing up, we had cord phones. I didn't have a cell phone in high school. I didn't get one till college.
Me too. Yeah.
And it was a Nokia phone.
Yep. It's wild to see where tech has gone. What's one book that's had a the biggest impact on you that you think listeners should read?
Oh my gosh. I just read it. What is the guy's name? Why can't I remember his name? It's on the tip of my tongue. It's the Bridgewater guy. Ray Dalio.
Ray Dalio, yeah.
Yes, Ray Dalio's book, and the name is coming blank.
That's all right. He's got a few. The new one?
The new one about, the Age of Empires or the Cycle of Empires or something like that.
I've seen it. I haven't read it either. Was it good?
It's good. It's a long book. He talks about, that's Friedberg's one of his favorite books. He had Ray Dalio on the pod. Talks about the debt cycle and the rise and fall of empires, right? And how we are coming off the top and coming down on the fall of the American empire. Wow. And how we can sustain American excellence. I was born in India. My parents immigrated to America when I was 5 years old. I still think this is the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the only country in the world where anyone, no matter what race you are, religion, nationality, or creed, you can be a millionaire if you work hard based on your merit. And that's why America is great, because there's a million ways to make $1 million in this country. And only in America do you have the freedoms and the opportunity to do that.
I agree. Well, very well said. Last question.
So I'm Team America.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Hey, I love it. Last question is, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a great dad to my 3 daughters, Aria, Dia, Gianna, and a good husband to my wife, Mona. Also want to be remembered as someone who built something great for the local community in terms of really cool buildings, whether it's a subdivision, apartment buildings, condo buildings, those kind of things. And really, my goal with making the money is to give back to the community, right? We want to start a charity. Me and my wife are looking at a bunch of causes that we want to help kids. I want it to be based around kids and help give back in terms of education and to those less fortunate. Something probably around immigrant children and how to give them opportunities.
I love it. I mean, it's right up your alley, and I think giving is the greatest happiness.
Yes.
I talk about I'm kind of dedicating my year next year to charity, Make-A-Wish Foundation with Brady, some things I've spoke on recently.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's just, I think I'm going to have the best year of my life because it's not just about business, it's not just about me. We're always about ourselves, right? Whether you say you're selfish or not, like I'm working on my health. I'm trying to be a better dad. I mean, it's about me and the family, but now it's time to help even more people outside. So I love that you want to be remembered for helping and giving opportunities. So I think it says a lot about you, but how can people reach out to you, find out about your funds, and where can they find you on social media?
Yes. So our company is galainvestments.io is the website. You can reach me there. All of my handles on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn are at The Grand Gala. TheGrandGala.
And I'll put all that in the comments section of the notes, and as well as the book. I'll look it up because I actually want to read that. Ray Dalio is obviously one of the most successful real estate guys. But that's all the time we got. So thanks so much for spending time late at night.
Yes.
After long days of business meetings.
I'm exhausted. Now I got to take the red eye back to the East Coast.
Yeah, I don't envy you.
Literally going to the airport after
I've been
this.
there. When I came to Charlotte event, I had to do it, and I was worn out when I got home. So I'm sure you will be too. But thanks for dropping the education, and thanks for stopping by. Hope you listeners had a great episode. Got a lot of knowledge dropped right